Hey guys, I'm Randy Younger here at the Film Forum in New York City, and you're watching Under the Radar.
This is my family,
Thanks for the great day.
and I'm telling you now, nobody messes with my family.
Master of your own destiny, Ricky. You up for that?
Yeah. This is where it's at. Vindaloo. Got to be hard to take this stuff, do you know what I mean, son?
All right, then.
Luckily now.
Hey guys, Randy Younger here, Under the Radar, here with screenwriter Paul Laverty of the new drama, Sorry We Missed You. Paul, this film is phenomenal. It's terrific. Everything about it, especially the actors. How did this film come about?
Well, I suppose we did a film previous to this, a film called I, Daniel Blake, that did very well in Cannes. It won the Palme d'Or, directed by Ken Loach as well. And in the process of doing that last film, we went to a lot of food banks. I don't know if you have them here in the States, where people can't get to the end of the month, they can't buy all their food. And what we noticed was there was not just the unemployed or people who were sick who were coming, but the working poor. So it really made us look at the gig economy and precarious work. And what we found out was that lots of people were working. Sometimes a couple were working, but they still not have enough money to get to the end of the month. So we started really beginning to look at this. And I don't know if you have something here called 0-hour contracts, but it means that, you know, people get a couple of hours in the morning, like carers who are looking after older people. Then there'll be fallow periods where they don't get paid. They don't even get paid their travelling money. And then they would get a couple of hours at lunchtime, another space, and then they would get tuck-ins and looking after people with their medical needs and giving them medicines and washing them in the evening. So their whole working day was stretched out, but they wouldn't get paid for all those hours. And so there was kind of great poverty. And we also looked at the gig economy, couriers, drivers, the white van men, the people who work for Amazon, for example, those types of people. And what we found out there too was that they were tied to an app, tied to an algorithm, tied to the, I don't know what you call them, but the scanners or the guns,
Right.
that we call them. And every moment of their working life was monitored, pressurised, you know. And what we really saw was just people under enormous pressure. So it really made us think, well, how does that affect a family? You know, if you're out of the house for so long, many of these people out of the house for 14 hours.
Right.
Who looks after the children? What happens to the children?
Right.
So we decided to tell a story about the Turner family. And we imagine Chris, who's a courier driver, Abby, who's a carer, looks after older people, a 16-year-old son, Seb, and the young girl called Katie. And so we just try to imagine their lives.
Humanize it.
Yes, humanise it, exactly, and just see how all that unravels in one life. And what we've found actually, it's had a tremendous resonance around the world. You know, from Japan to Europe, you know, France has been very, very strong. And what we've found is that there are more and more people working harder and longer, under more controlled conditions, receiving less benefits. And I think it really taps into the great elephant in the sitting room just now, is massive inequality in our societies. And I know that there's a very, very important issue here in the United States, where we have three men, Mr. Jeff Bezos, Mr. Warren Buffett, and Mr. Bill Gates, three white men who between them own the same as 50% of the American population, which is, it sounds like fiction, it sounds like something from outer space, but it's the truth.
Wish it were fiction.
Yes, and it's not an accident, because we had Thatcher, you know, many years ago, who destroyed the trade union movement, and you had Reagan, and trade unions have got, you know, less and less strong. Corporations have got stronger. They've managed to organise a system whereby, you know, with deregulation, they've managed to transfer all risk from the corporation to the individual driver or the individual worker, so they don't get paid for holiday money if there's no sickness benefit. So everything is left in the hands of the worker by themselves, atomised and fragile. And it's fine if everything goes well, but as soon as something goes wrong, they carry the brunt of it.
Well, I can tell you're very passionate about this subject. I'm curious, how long have you been thinking about this? How long have you been, you know, thinking of a story to come to film based on this subject?
Well, I suppose our last film, Daniel Blake, is a companion piece to this film. and it looked at the world of welfare and how the poor are stereotyped and demonised. And I know this happens here, as if to say, well, it's all your fault. And we have a very punitive, cruel system in the United Kingdom, and I suspect it's not much kinder here. And so, you know, we've been thinking about these issues and these, and listening to people who have lived through these experiences, you know, for a couple of years now. So it's very satisfying to bring it here to the Film Forum tonight, to have it opening tonight in the United States. We were very lucky to get, you know, very strong reviews from, you know, the New York Times and various other magazines. So we know it's very hard to get a film like this out in the United States. You know, we're competing with big blockbusters. Our films have got a very modest budget, but I hope people will find a very intimate story. But just by telling an intimate story in the north of England, it's actually something that resonates with people's experiences around the world. We have the Amazons of this world everywhere. You know, there's consumer society where people are turned into cogs in a wheel, where people are driven, where people are monitored and measured to the very last drop of sweat. And we're really asking big questions about what is the point of work, you know, if we can't look after our own children.
And the film is very intense because of the subject matter, because of what the characters go through, obviously. Speaking about the characters, what was the casting process like? Did you work closely with Ken on that?
Yes, Ken and myself have worked together now for the last 25 years. I think we've done 13 feature films together. We did one here in the States a long time ago called Bread and Roses, about the Justice for Janitors strike. You know, si se puede, yes we can. You know, way back, which Obama stole actually from the janitors.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes we can. Yes, si se puede. I met some fantastic people there. So we've been working together for a very long time, and so we work hand in hand. So Ken is a director, I'm a writer, but we meet in the middle as filmmakers, and we try and support each other through the whole process. You know, right from the very talking about it, thinking about it. You know, I write the script, Ken will cast an eye over it, and he's a very collaborative and a very demanding collaborator, but a very generous one. And then we do the casting together with a wonderful Scottish casting director called Callan Crawford, and then we try and just find the best people and imagine you know, trying to find the people who will give life to the film as best imagined. And what's lovely about it is these two kids, you know, Katie and Reese, had never acted before, but they were absolutely brilliant.
They are.
Debbie was actually, she was an assistant in a school for kids who get problems, so she had a real brilliant hand with people, incredibly kind
Very
people.
natural.
And Chris had done a little bit of acting, but he was a plumber and ran his own business. I had a white van.
So he brought that to the role.
Yes, and I think you can see him there. He looks like a man he's been running a lot, and I think you believe them as a family. I think that's been really nice about the reaction to the film. People actually really believe this is a family, and the intricate relationships that they have.
I'm curious. You've done a lot of writing yourself. Is there a type of film that you'd like to write that you haven't written already?
Well, each story in each film really is always feels like climbing a mountain, because you don't want to repeat yourself,
right?
You know, so it's always, I find it's a massive effort, and we don't want to repeat ourselves, and we try and cover different things. So each project feels enormous. So we take it one step at a time, and let's hope we can keep our marbles and don't go crazy and can get around to doing another one.
Okay.
But I love working with Ken Loach. Ken is now 83, but still full of great energy and brilliant, and he's smart. And I work with a fantastic Spanish director called Thea Boyain, and we've done 3 films together as well. So I'm very lucky to work with 2 brilliant directors.
Okay. How important is collaboration to you, working with a team and bringing a work of art such as this film to life? How important is that sense of teamwork?
It's absolutely key and very important. So we're very lucky to work with some really brilliant collaborators. Robbie Ryan is the director of photography. Jonathan Morris, who is our edited films with Ken for about the last 40 years. Ray Beckett does sound, who won an Oscar a couple of years back for a film he did in the States. And Rebecca O'Brien is another key figure in we work together all the time. Ken Loach, the director, Rebecca O'Brien, who's a brilliant producer, and she does all the hard work in the engine room to make sure we can get time to to dig around and do this work. So it's a brilliant team, and very, very privileged to work with them. We write films that what's very important for us is to maintain control of the content. That's absolutely key. So if you keep the budget low enough and everybody gets their money back, in essence, people, we can decide the content, and we don't want rich financial executives telling us what to do and what to take out. So we're very, very lucky to have our independence, and I know that's very, very difficult now in these days, but that is actually key to how we operate, and of course is why we try to make these films. But that is very, very important to us. So if you keep these films are very modest by comparison, probably cost 3 or 4 million, whereas something like the recent film from the UK in 1917, I think, had a budget of $90 million, so it's like they're different beasts altogether.
Right. Okay. Now I understand you're also a lawyer.
I used to be.
Used to be.
Yes, it's a long time ago, and I managed to escape law. Managed to escape the office, which is probably a relief for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back then, though, I'm curious. Did your lawyer life ever coincide with your screenwriter life?
Well, I did work a long time ago as a human rights lawyer in Nicaragua in Central America. I was an eyewitness to the war in Nicaragua, where the United States, via the CIA, trained the Contra, who went in to try and undermine and destroy the Sandinista revolution, which was in 1979. So I was an eyewitness to the barbarity and the great shame that the United States tax dollars were used to penalise a civilian population. It's long forgotten, and so I'm used to fake news. Fake news was long before Trump came along, and what we saw was this tiny little country destroyed. And the great pity, of course, is I think that the Sandinista revolution has actually been, has been betrayed by the people who are in power just now, who were very much involved at the beginning. But that's a long, long story and takes a great deal of untangling. But I suppose my work there as a lawyer bled into my first attempts to try and write a screenplay, because the first screenplay was set in Nicaragua called Carlos, and again directed by Ken Loach.
I'm curious. Are there any writer influences in your life? Any other writers that have influenced or impacted your work?
Well, that's very hard to say. I think when you're writing, you kind of draw on everything you've ever read and you've ever been inspired by. But if you think you try to copy another writer, I think you're dead, really. I think you have to be kind of truthful to your instinct and in the material and the people you're collaborating with. You just can't simply copy someone. But obviously, there's writers that inspire you, mostly novelists. But it doesn't really coincide with our filmmaking. But although it's very different. I think you have to be truthful to your own voice and try and tell original stories. I think you try to copy someone, you're dead.
Right. Cultivate your own voice and just bring it out creatively.
Yeah, and give voice to the people that you've met, and have shared their lives with us. You can't copy a screenplay from the street, but you can certainly be inspired by them. We did this, like I said, we did this film in the United States called Bread and Roses. That was inspired by, fantastic, immigrants who came in from Central America, and brilliant, fantastically creative trade unionists, especially in the SEIU, and they organised this campaign called Justice for Janitors, and we met marvellously intelligent, creative trade unionists who were very brave and very principled, and I hope some of your viewers might get a chance to see the wonderful performances by these people in this film called Bread and Roses, Pane y Rosas.
Okay, sounds good. So film is a fantastic medium. Do you think film is a perfect conduit for change?
I think organising is the conduit for change. I think it's people only coming together and organising collectively to confront corporate power in this country, which is just unbelievable just now. So I think film is maybe a modest contribution, but I think you hope a story can help raise some questions, raise some consciousness. But I have to remember that most films are actually right wing and at least in my experience, mostly right wing and quite reactionary. How many, who gets to choose what's up there? Who commissions the stories? Who occupies the screen time and the screen space? Who gets the big giant budgets? You know, and it's usually, let's face it, it's usually dramas of, you know, white men using violence to obtain their what they want. You know, I'm stereotyping them. You know, but you know, so but you know, sometimes a film comes through the cracks that's subversive, and it's quite brilliant. And The Golden Cage is one that comes to mind. Done with a director called Diego Queimada. People get a chance to see that. A film which is, you know, subversive and brilliant, but you know, we'll never get the distribution and financing for that. So The Golden Cage, if your viewers can get a
I'm
copy
gonna
of that,
check that.
yeah,
out.
check it out and just see the wonderful cinematography in it. And,
It's a
and
shame,
a brilliant story. Yeah.
Films like this, they're so important. They tell a real story, and yet the budget's not that high. I want to congratulate you and Ken and the whole team and cast on what you've accomplished with this film. It's really, really moving.
Well, thanks very much, because you know, we set out to tell a great story. A good issue doesn't make for a great film. You have to tell a great story.
Yeah.
And if you do tell a good story, and the premise is right, and it seems truthful and authentic, and has some echo, and it's got 3 dimensions to it, you know, is there a chance that it might echo in other people's lives and other cultures as well? Yeah. And so far we've been lucky. They've led to great debate.
Yeah.
We've got a fantastic distribution company in the UK called E1, and they've organised community screenings. For the last film, they organised something like 600 community screenings in churches and trade union halls and schools and universities. And so the film has been used to debate and trying to figure out how power operates in our lives, and trying to figure out, you know, why we have this massive concentration of wealth and power, and how that becomes organised. And it's no accident. And so if we are to confront that power, we really have to use our imagination, we have to use our intelligence, and we have to organise together and be in solidarity with each other.
That's great. Paul, how can people see the film? When does it release?
Well, I understand it is released today.
Okay.
We're here at the Film Forum, speaking from the Film Forum in New York. I know it'll be here for 2 weeks, and then I think it goes out through the country, you know, bit by bit. Okay. So I really don't have all the details, but I know it'll be here in the Film Forum for the next 2 weeks, and then it'll go throughout the country. I'm sure it'll be quite a modest distribution, but if people look up "Sorry We Missed You," I'm sure the details will come up. I hope.
I hope so too. It's a great film. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
This is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest and good luck, and thanks to your viewers for finding this on YouTube.
Sure. Well, thank you again. And I want to thank everyone watching at home and on your devices. This has been Under the Radar. I'm your host, Randy Unger. Thanks so much for watching.